wonderful is what you are to me. It's you I see in my dream. Every day I pray for you, queen of my life. You are so beautiful, oh, wow, so beautiful. Emi mama call, yeah, yeah. Mama, you know Judy. That is why I love you.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if can you all hear me? I feel like you can hear me. I see some waving people, see some good energies. Welcome to the Create Conscious Black Magic series, part 1. This is our first collaboration with the amazing duo who founded Yorùbáizm. And I'm sure some of you, if not many of you, have heard of it before and have been engaging in some of their really amazing online events and series and workshops to help connect the diaspora and also the people in the country who are of Yoruba descent, to help learn a bit more about their traditions, their concepts, their ideas, the way of connecting, and their rituals and tools for connecting to their ancestors. So we'll be covering a little bit of that today. A little bit about myself. I'm Charisse. I am the founder of Create Conscious Community. And what we do is we support and produce events that make sensitive topics more accessible, relatable, and safe to explore. So that's particularly why we're so invested in a topic like this. I think it's something that's irked me, in the past, when I've seen movies or even in general conversation, people talk about different African, or the way they refer to different African spiritualities is always in such a negative light. And I think it's time to change that. I think it's time we start educating each other and learning about what these things that have existed, no offense to Christianity, but way before that, and see how those communities and civilizations were relating to the world and the universe around them and each other. So yeah, we put on events like that, and it's generally a range because the idea is to bring spirituality back to you. And I think a lot of that resonates with Yoruba in the sense that it's about looking within. So even if you aren't from of Yoruba descent, there's probably still something in this that resonates with you, but it's about making it personal and finding your own way of appreciating, understanding, and respecting, while still learning and engaging, So I think it's important, regardless of where you're from, to sort of get involved and learn about this stuff, because we're not being taught it anywhere else. So thank you to everybody out there who's doing the work and teaching everybody, because yeah, it's excellent. Before I introduce them, I just want to set up the space because it's good. We need to protect each other. And I know events like this have been targeted in the past by some real bad people. So just so everybody's on the same page when we're communicating and talking, I want everybody who's in the chat to feel comfortable, first of all. So if you don't want to have your camera on, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to speak out loud when there's an opportunity to, that's also fine. Yeah, if at any point you need to leave, do whatever you need to do, that's all good. Another thing is that with Create Conscious Spaces, it's important and integral that you approach this space with an open heart and an open mind. Because yeah, it's not about necessarily telling people that you're wrong or whatever. If there's something that gets brought up that you don't agree with, just remember that these are perspectives of people at the end of the day. And though there is a lot of history and knowledge and fact behind them, don't, you know, attack someone if you don't agree. Try and teach or learn instead. As well as be sensitive with language, the way that we refer to people. We want everybody to feel seen and whole and respected. So just be aware of that. And no judgment. If there's something that you don't quite agree with, you're also welcome to state that, but to force that on anyone else is not exactly what we're going for. Just accept you have your perspective, I have mine, and I want to be open to learning about others, even if it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. Yeah, pretty much. Just respect each other. Respect everybody. That's pretty much all I got to say. So I'm going to pass it on to Tùmí and Tálè. They are the wonderful, wonderful ladies behind Yorùbáizm. If you also check the chat, you will see that we are, in fact, collecting some donations today because this is work and it deserves, you know, be supported financially. So if there's any way, you know, this is a good way to spend your money, not so much on a Black Friday sale, but on a Black Magic event. How about that? One second. There you go. Half of the donations are going towards, you'll see also in the chat, it says End SARS Legal Aid. I'm sure many of you have seen the protests going on in Nigeria towards the SARS institution. And a lot of people have been hurt, and we're trying our best to figure a way to use these events to not only support the platforms that are bringing this information, but also support the countries that we're trying to educate people about. So if you can, if you would like, please check out the little PayPal me links in there and donate. And yeah, we'll hope to continue bringing more events. So yeah, I'm going to unmute Tálè and Tùmí. 1 second, let me just find her. And this will be easier. 1 second. There we go. There she is. Awesome. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hi.
Evening.
Good evening.
So feel free to introduce yourselves and the wonderful guest that we have as well.
You want to go first, Tálè?
Okay. So my name is Tálè. I'm one of the co-founders of Yorùbáizm. We started Yorùbáizm in September 2019, so about a year old. And Tùmí and I were both of Yoruba descent, born in London, grew up in London, and just we wanted to create a space a safe space for people to learn about Yoruba spirituality, because we were fortunate enough to grow up around it and learning about it, and so we've never really seen it from a demonized lens, and we just wanted to share that.
Beautiful, thank you.
And I'm Tùmí. Good evening, everyone. Ekabo, that means welcome in Yoruba. We started Yorùbáizm is about the language, the culture, aesthetics, food, hair, beauty. It's about everything, and it's also just about exploring the ways that the similarities and the differences we have across all the different nations that exist in Africa, and also about trying to explore our histories outside of just what is written by people that are not us. I think a lot of the time, especially, sometimes we look at our histories surrounding slavery and colonialism and post-colonialism, and sometimes there's not really enough about what existed before that, and honest and nuanced conversations about our ethnic groups. And there's so much diversity in Africa. It's one of the most diverse places in the whole world. And so I think it's really important to have these kinds of spaces where we have fun, interesting, informative, and nuanced conversations. So that is how Yorùbáizm came about. And we have our guest today.
It's Oluwodubi, who is our father and also a practitioner and devotee of Yoruba spirituality. He is a solicitor by profession, and is on the committee of Issue Is Not Satan in Lagos, Nigeria, and is a cultural renaissance advocate, and a member of the Celebration organization.
So we brought him along today so that if there's any, because I just disclaimer, we are also learning, and most practitioners, it's a constant evolutionary journey. You continue to learn and learn and learn and learn. So we just wanted to bring someone that was more experienced than us, so that if there's any questions that you have that are beyond our scope or level, that they can be answered.
Thank you. Wow. So basically, yes, you're all very blessed and lucky to have such great hosts and speakers for today. Humbling, as I say, these are human perspective, people perspectives, though it's based on traditions and that have existed for thousands of years. So we just, if there is something that you think you could teach, let us know. In terms of questions and stuff, thank you all for suggesting something that we could talk about during. We've tried to incorporate as much as we can. Yeah, so if you'd like to ask a question during or maybe after the process, you can type your question into the chat and we'll try and read it and get around to it. If you'd like to speak your question, just let me know in the chat that you would like to say something, and at some point I will unmute you and you can do that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a discussion. We've got 3 topics to cover, and then I will be leading a little exercise. So this would be a good time, if you don't have any pens or paper and stuff like that, go get them. Oh no, you can get that in the break. You can get that in the break, it's fine, you don't have to do it now. But yeah, we will be getting artsy because I feel like a good way to figure out how a faith or a concept resonates with you is maybe by channeling it in some sort of artistic way and finding a symbol for that concept so that you can be reminded of it when you look at it again. So we'll be doing that later. But for now, we're going to start with the first topic, and it will start with an introduction to Yoruba spirituality, the concept of God, orishas, and a bit of like creation theories within the Yoruba culture. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so just in case there's anybody who doesn't know anything about what Yoruba spirituality or anything is, I'll start with a brief introduction. So Yoruba is actually a language, most notably spoken in West Africa, particularly in Nigeria, Benin, Togo, but also spread, there's diasporic communities in the UK, in America, in Brazil, in all over the world, Trinidad, lots of different places. And so Yoruba spirituality is essentially how we understand the divine, how we understand the, so to speak, other world from our cultural perspective. Sometimes you may be familiar with things like Ifa, which is the repository of knowledge that Yoruba people tap into to understand and ask questions that we have. Some people may consider Ifa to be a religion, but there's religion in Ifa, but Ifa in and of itself is not simply a religion. And then things that you may also be familiar with are the Orisha system. So one thing that I'll say about the concept of God in Yoruba spirituality is often people refer to what are known as Orishas as gods. Yoruba spirituality is not polytheistic. I would say those kind of labels. One thing that we often do is we tend to try and relate what we already know in terms of Abrahamic religions, or the more established, so to speak, religions. We tend to try and make equivalences in order to help with our understanding. But I think that one thing that I'm going to start this conversation by doing is that we should slowly try to break away from that, because actually what I think that's created, it's created a lot of false equivalences. It's created a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of misnomers about African spirituality and religion. And so we should try and understand it in its own right, in its own frame, and use the language that the people themselves use, as opposed to trying to create equivalences that exist. So the supreme being, or the alpha and omega, so to speak, in Yoruba spirituality is Olodumare. But Olodumare is more of an energy. It's a force. So in the way that we may say, think of, again, I'm already doing it now drawing the parallels, but I just want to try and move away from thinking about it in the sense of the way we may think of like God as a he, or God as like this one person, this almighty power sitting up in a cloud somewhere. That's not what Olodumare is in Yoruba spirituality. Yoruba, the way we think of the creator, the supreme being, so to speak, is that it's a force, it's an energy that's in tune with all the energies that exist in the universe. So that's the first thing. And then what we have orishas, which are deified personalities. So essentially, the way we understand it is that there were certain people that have existed, and we learned things from them, or they performed wonders in the world that have made them become these celebrated personalities, these deified personalities that we seek to, that we worship, that we praise, and we seek knowledge from based on the wonders and things that they have performed in the world. So Orisha, the way that you can translate that is Ori in Yoruba, translates directly, literally to your head, yeah? Your Ori. But your Ori can also be your over self, your inner personality, the God within you, essentially. So Orisha, depending on how you say it, Ori Tasha, which means the Ori that we picked, yeah? So I can see somebody in my life now and say, this person, that is an Orisha to me, based on the things that I've learned from them, the things that they've done in the world. Or we can say Orisha, which means that your Ori was already selected before you came to have been a person that would be deified and celebrated. So it can be, Orisha can be either one of those. So one thing that I want you guys to leave with today is that every single person, just by virtue of being alive and existing, has the power to be an Orisha. Because if you can perform any wonder that leaves enough of a mark on the world or changes something in the world, you can become an Orisha. So know that everybody here in this audience today can be or end up as an Orisha. The only difference is the ones that we know and that are celebrated are because they've existed. They're one of the earlier ones. They're part of the creation story, and so on and so forth. And they're not to be mixed up with terms like lesser gods, smaller gods, or gods, or anything like that. They are believed to have been either spirits or people that actually existed on earth. And the system that we use in Yoruba spirituality is we channel things that we ask for, or our understanding of the world, through the Orishas. And one thing that I've actually had conversations with people about is that our concept of God is, nobody knows. No matter how much people write or theorize or tell us, nobody knows who or what God is. But we know that our ancestors existed. We know that they were here. We know that we are only here because they existed. And so that's why we also channel the supreme being or the creator through them, because they have lived and we have learned through them. And our existence is because of our ancestry. So that's another reason why ancestry is so important in Yoruba spirituality. So I guess in a nutshell, that's the concept of God and in Yoruba spirituality. And then the system that we seek knowledge and ask questions through is through Ifa, which has corpuses that are largely oral. that you learn messages through, and you can also go through divination to find out more about yourself and more about the knowledge that exists in Ifa. If Tálè or Olu wants to add anything, please feel free.
Amazing.
Me? Well, I think, thank you for bringing me on board. If Tùmí has actually summarized things quite well. The slight addition that I will make is that apart from the Orisha, we also have another aspect of our creation, which we call Irunmole. And the Irunmole translates to what we call the primordial beings. The primordial beings that existed in the other world, and also they also transited the other world and they lived among us. Some of them actually became Orisha. That's the only thing I want to add. And again, talking about creation myth, again, the word is myth. Every creation, every culture has a creation story. No creation story is sacrosanct. No creation story is the absolute truth. Every creation story is created for the people to understand how things came about. Nobody knows how things came about. That is the truth. The point is that according to the Yoruba worldview, we have the other world and our world. Our world being the material world, the other world being the spiritual world. Some people would like to call it heaven, for want of a better term. And in the other world, the world of the unseen, the three-dimensional limitation of material existence is not known. So most of what is manifesting in our material world today is as a result of the vibratory energy that we receive or get from the other world. And that is why in Yoruba we say the world is like a marketplace. Our home is heaven or the other world. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think they've both summed up topic one quite nicely. I just want to add that from what I've known, generally the Yorubas don't, as Oluwadubi said, creation stories are myths. So like with the whole thing of what happens after death or life before, or how did the world come about, generally Yorubas don't concern themselves with that. It's more about the present and what you're doing now and how that will help you progress essentially. So yeah.
If I can help Tálè there, what Tálè is saying is that, for instance, in the normal Abrahamic system, we get to hear things like rest in peace. It is a concept that is unknown to us in our system, because the soul of any personality doesn't rest. That is the aspect of being that is eternal. That is the aspect of being that will make transitions to various levels of consciousness or existence. When we shed the material cloak, Yoruba says, maybe I should say it to Yoruba before I translate it. Iwájú tó dojú kọ ada ẹ̀yìn tó fi sílẹ̀ kò ní bàjẹ́. So we say, wherever that personality is facing, we pray for it to be a better place. And what that person has left behind, we also pray for it to be good. So what Tálè is essentially saying is that whatever you do now will leave a legacy which is for either good or for wonderful or bad. Now, if people die and you find that they've planted the seed of discord and they are their families, their offsprings are always wrangling over maybe some stupid material property, then the aim, the legacy left behind is not a particularly positive or good one, right? Now we believe that the soul personality, the actual personality moves on. So whatever we've done in this our existence, in this our current incarnation, will account for whatever will happen wherever we're transited to. We're not concerned about what happens on the next level, because most of us don't really know, we're guessing. But definitely that personality that is eternal moves on, and it moves, and wherever it moves to will be dependent on the kind of vibratory energy that you created in this incarnation. And that's what Charlie is saying. Yeah.
Just seen a question here in the chat about, could you clarify creation story? Are you referring to religious beliefs and stories? Yes. So I think in every culture, other than scientific evolution or like evolutionary, the Big Bang Theory and Darwin, other than that, I think every culture has an idea about how the world came to be, whether it's the 7-day story in the Bible or whether it's what's in the Quran or Buddhism. All of these things, they're not based on science. So that's why we're saying that we believe that they're myths, essentially. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
And we've got
more questions. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Is Ifa the name for divination within the religion? What's the overall name for the religion / religious practices? Did you want to?
Okay. Again, I personally, from my own experience and practice, I try to avoid the label religion, as opposed to what I would call spirituality. Now, we're saying this is spirituality. We're not saying it's religion. And like, I think, was it Tálè or Tùmí that referred to the fact that Ifa has religion, but it's not a religion, in the sense that those who create a religion about the Ifa belief system, and they have things like house of worship, they're there. In Yoruba land, for instance, we call it Ilé Ìjúbà. That means the house of worship, right? And people actually sing praises to whoever is the Godhead, that is in charge of that belief system. But in actual fact, what we practice is spirituality, in the sense that if you are into an Orisha or an Ifa system, right? Unlike what happens in religion, we don't have things like blanket injunctions. For instance, if you are into Islam, you don't eat pork. Now, if you are into Ifa will not say everybody in Ifa should not eat something. The individual will have to find out what is his or her taboo. And that is the essence of spirituality. You decide what is peculiar to your own energies. As to be said,
and on a note to just end what's being said there is, I just want to say that the slight difference between religion and I think spirituality, particularly in Yoruba culture, is it's only, I think, nowadays that things are being divorced from every day-to-day life. Like spiritual practices would be embedded in literally every single part of life. So the different practices have their name. So whatever thing that you're doing would have its name. Groups that worship together, you might say they're Isheshi or things like that, but traditionally everything had a spiritual aspect to it, so they weren't really divorced from every aspect of life. So I think that's what all we're saying, is that if has the knowledge base and it has religion in it, but all the different practices would have their individual names, because spirituality is literally intertwined with every aspect of life.
Amazing. Thank you. That was really interesting. A lot of that personally also spoke to me, and I'm sure it probably spoke to you as well. So yeah, I invite you all to sit with that and let that ruminate for a bit. Because yeah, I suppose it's not often what people expect, and we kind of, yeah, this comparison to like Christianity or Islam isn't something we should be doing, because they are just different. And I'm really happy to be learning exactly what those differences are.